Courtney, thank you very much for joining us on the Primate Live.
My pleasure.
Given the fact that you've been involved really in writing, directing and producing, and you're intimately involved of course with the After Dark series, what do you actually look for when choosing a project?
Well, dare I say good projects, but really when I start, it comes down to characters and story. When we look at scripts, first we see that and concept. Once we, feel that the character, story, and concept are good, then we sort of get our teeth into sequences in the movie, how to visualize the movie, and what filmmakers might be great for it. Some of the movies actually come in writer-directors, so then the filmmaker question's pretty easy. But when I say concept, we like to look for something that hasn't been done, which is tough because everything's been done to a certain extent, but what we don't want is something that's completely derivative. And a lot of the time with horror scripts especially, and projects, you get a lot of projects that come in that you've really seen a lot of times before, and if we put them out to you, we make them and then put them out to the audience, they'll just think, we're copying Nightmare on Elm Street, or we're copying, anything really. But
so really, the name rings true. Originals means you're really looking for an original idea each time.
we are, but also original stands for a differentiation between, for 4 years we did After Dark, Horrorfest, 8 Films to Die For in the States, and those films we acquired all of the films. So in other words, they were already made, we went to festivals, we found them, and we found 8 horror films and then gave filmmakers a chance to have their films go out theatrically in the US. When I went to originals, the idea was that then we were going to make 8 original horror films every year.
Okay.
So that's actually what the original stands for, is that it's 8 original horror films.
In Seconds Apart, you actually cast actual twins in the movie rather than using one person and being a double, which you do see from time to time.
Right.
How difficult was it to find
3
twins
months.
that were perfect?
3 months.
3 months.
But
wow.
the Edwin boys are amazing. Those guys are just fantastic. I mean, they are really talented, and that's where it starts. But boy, their work ethic is fantastic, these guys. I mean, they were just so into everything. Every moment they were off, then they were talking about the next scene, what they could do here, what might be a problem here, how could we fix this, how could we make that better. And to find them, there you really wanted twins that weren't just twins. You wanted creepy twins. I mean, that's the truth. You really, and there was something about those 2 boys. We saw, God, I'd have to say, between people who were put on tape who weren't in Los Angeles, and then, them, probably 80, 90 sets of twins over 3 months. And actually we found them at the end, and who suggested them was Brian Singer. Because he had worked with them on a video or something, I don't know what it was, and he suggested them, and so then we brought them in, and they were it. And we narrowed down to like 3 final twins, Antonio, the director, did, and then they brought them into me, and we had an audition with 3 of them. I was like, these guys for sure. I mean, there's just no
Now, how do scriptwriters, filmmakers, directors go about actually submitting to be part of After Dark Originals to get there?
We have a whole development department, and because we make more horror movies than any other company, even the studios in the US now, pretty much every horror project, be it big or be it small, that is sort of created comes to After Dark. And it's submitted from the agencies, from the filmmakers directly, cold calls. I mean, I'll get 30 cold emails a week just to my email address because people find it online or wherever for the company, asking to make their movies.
Okay. So there's no one avenue to submit. You
No,
get them
I
from
mean,
anywhere.
obviously we have filmmakers that we've worked with and they're submitting to us, and filmmakers from the 32 films we put out that were acquisitions, 4 years earlier for After Dark Horrorfest. But aside from that, people we know in the industry, but I mean, everybody submits their movies to us, so it's probably 300 to 500 scripts a year submitted.
Now, Australia is good at making some thrillers and some horrors.
Yes, I know.
Have you, like Wolf Creek and Death
there's
Sentence.
the famous one.
Of course.
Right?
Have you thought of bringing it down under?
We did
and
put
doing
one
After
out
Dark?
as well, by the way, From Within.
Okay.
Yeah, that was year 2 or year 3 of Horrorfest, I can remember. Which part of doing After Dark Originals, when we used to acquire the films, we didn't have worldwide rights. We would acquire the US, but the filmmakers would have sold the rest of the world prior to us, having gotten involved with the film. And we constantly got requests to have it in Australia, the UK, France, many of the larger markets. But nothing we could do about it because, just there was no way to control where all 8 films, the rights were sold to different people, and there was no way to get any sort of unanimous cooperation between so many different companies within a different territory that may have bought the different films in the festival. So that's why when I did After Dark Originals, we owned the worldwide rights. So then I went on a sort of road tour at the festivals and the film markets and made a partner in the UK here and everywhere. So this is actually the preliminary launch with the first year, which is a smaller thing, which they're looking to gear up to do exactly what we're doing in the US by next year's festival. So that I know they would really like to see this sort of test work and then move it across the country so that it's happening in multiple cities, just like it does in the US, every single year. So that is the goal.